Okay, yeah, my name's Craig Alford. I'm a professional geologist. I'm the CEO of CDSG, which is in the short term, we'll be changing our name to Titan Lithium as it more reflects what the company is doing and our giant lithium exploration area within Tanzania. I'm very, very excited about the prospect of discussing the projects with you guys today. I've worked worldwide in geology. I've worked for major Chinese companies, actually, Zijin Mining being the most recent. I was deputy general manager of Zijin and looking at a lot of targets for them worldwide. And I was involved in some awesome giant projects for copper gold for that company. And I believe that this is a giant project for lithium. So let me get started. The image you see here on the left is actually from our Nevada project called the West End Lithium Claims. And it actually sits inside of a resource. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. I believe a lot of investors are likely already aware of what this slide is showing, which is essentially that the demand for lithium in the coming decade is going to overstrip what the current mine production is producing. In fact, last year, 10.2 million electric vehicles were sold worldwide. And if you use in your mind a rough calculation of 10 kilograms per car, you can sort of calculate rapidly how many million kilograms are needed. That's 100 million. So that if you look at the mine production, you'll find that we're just keeping up now to what the cars want, and cars don't even represent 100% of the lithium market. They represent 85%, as obviously phones, laptops, other electric batteries are used elsewhere. So it's going to be a real challenge for the lithium producers of the world to keep up. And so the real onus here is on the idea of finding new resources and bringing them online into the growing market space in the next decade. When we look at the car sales worldwide, we often think of, North America, Europe, China, but actually, India, Africa, it's a large market there. And countries like India have made a lot of headway in trying to become electrified over the next decade. The lithium market movement within the last year has been incredible. There is a big push within the United States to get ready for electrification of cars. And the US Department of Energy has announced a number of loans to companies or grants to companies in some cases. The Canadian government has tried to greenlight, or has basically stated they want to greenlight lithium mines or battery metal areas to production as fast as possible. It does still take a while, though. It's not something that's done overnight. It is often, 5-6 years before something could come online. Car companies like General Motors have actually directly invested into producers. Recently, GM put in $650 million to the Thacker Pass deposit that belongs to Lithium Americas, a Canadian company. And that deposit, when they put the money in, hadn't even been greenlighted by the US government. So it really goes to show you how eager car companies are into getting vertical integration of lithium within their companies so that they don't experience a shortfall. Companies like Lithium Americas actually have started taking over other companies. So there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening in the market. Lithium Americas completed an acquisition of Millennium Lithium Corporation, as well as Arena Minerals. There's a misspell there, but sorry, it's Arena Minerals. Albemarle just recently tried to acquire Liontown Resources for $3.68 billion. That was rejected, but I would imagine they'll probably head back to the table and have another discussion. As well, Volkswagen announced that it wants to directly invest in mining companies as well for lithium. And recently, China Natural Resources has offered $1.75 billion for a mine in Zimbabwe. So a lot has been happening with mergers, acquisitions, and direct investments. Okay, so getting to the projects here, why are we over in Africa? A lot of the exploration has centered around Canada, US, South America, and Australia primarily. But we're here because there's a very interesting event happening, and it's been happening for millions of years, which is the East African Rift Valley. The eastern part here, the Horn of Africa, is actually separating away from the African plate. And there's going to be a new ocean come in here that's actually been named already, but that won't happen for a long time. But as this rifting has gone on, it's produced very interesting volcanic assemblages, which are often very rich in light elements. In fact, within Tanzania here, where we are exploring, there's actually been deposits found of helium. So the top three elements in the universe are hydrogen, helium, and lithium. So helium deposits have been found, and we also now are seeing really good indications that there's substantial lithium deposits to be found. Where we're mainly located is southeast of Mount Kilimanjaro. You likely have heard of Mount Kilimanjaro as it's the tallest mountain in Africa, and it itself is a giant stratovolcano. And it has been pumping out somewhat lithium-rich materials in big ash clouds over millions of years. It's fairly dormant. It has not erupted in the last 360,000 years. There's also types of volcanic area that is producing carbonatitic volcanism, which is fairly unique and also very lithium-rich. So here we are located here in this sort of U-shaped area. It's actually a fault-bounded valley called the Pangani Valley. And we're located here in the south, where we believe that the deposition of lithium-rich materials has accumulated. There have been several seismic lines sent across this valley, and we know it to be quite deep. So remembering where we were in the south part of this valley, our initial exploration was done just really honestly in terms of we're just prospecting. And what we found, though, was really high lithium values over 14 kilometers. And that excited us. We received values up to 13,000 parts per million, which is extremely high. To find in surface alluvium, just surface soils. So as time has gone on, this is a very, very recent exploration activity. This is January, February, and March, essentially. We've been progressing through the area, adding on, because each time we put in a line, when we get the results back, we find that we end the line in high lithium values. So that's led us to extend the lines to the north, extend the lines to the south, as well as the east. This area is very nice in terms of it lacks vegetation. It's a big flat basin, much like sort of the deserts of Nevada. There's very little, land usage here for people. There's very little in the way of human habitation. The ground is not suitable for agriculture. The ground is not suitable for, herding animals and animal husbandry. So it's very good for mining, and we will not run into a lot of the social issues typically wrapped around areas where there's high human habitation. So over time, we've now developed a number of lines here. We've got the geochemical results. And we believe that the word Titan is extremely applicable here because this is just such a large area. The actual area encompassed by the anomalous values. So there are some low values and non-anomalous values, but you see here the green, the reds, those are all highly anomalous. And even the blue values would be anomalous in Nevada in comparison. So we decided to let's compare it against projects in Nevada. And two of the largest, there's three large ones, but these two are further along than others in terms of defining a resource. This is the Thacker Pass deposit from Lithium Americas, and this is the TLC deposit of American Lithium. Those companies' names are very similar, but their projects are both excellent. Here we see this sort of red outline and these colors, which do not indicate grade, but merely how the resource has been put into measured, indicated, and inferred categories. But that right there encompasses 19.1 million tons of LCE. You typically see this word LCE. It means lithium carbonate equivalent. And the composite grade here is 2,036 parts per million lithium. And here we see blue, green, yellow now, meaning measured, indicated, and inferred. And that now measures 10.7 million tons of LCE at a grade of around 700 to 800 parts per million. Oh, sorry, actually, there it is right there. Anyway, it's of lower grade, but still economic. Both of these companies are planning to move ahead with their projects. Lithium Americas is a little bit further along. As I say, the project's been greenlit for production, and both of them are using similar leach technologies to extract the lithium out of the clay horizons. So in comparison, our project looks amazing. First of all, the average grade overall here is 4,400 to 4,600 parts per million. So we actually are of a higher grade than these two projects here. And as you can see, the size of the project is just not comparable to the other two. In fact, I've recently compared it to the size of the island of Manhattan in New York City. It's actually bigger than Manhattan. We still are working on extending lines north and south, as well as east and west. I feel that the east is going to produce another high field because you can see the leading edge to the east here is mostly red. So we ended the eastern lines in high-grade material. So I suspect we're going to see another couple of kilometers of high grade. So that's an extremely interesting target. That's called Titan 1. The Titan 2 project is located about 40 kilometers northwest of Titan 1. And it's in another basin that we identified in the area. And what we did there was we sampled this large playa, this dry lake, by grid sampling. And what you see here is the contoured result of our grid sampling. And it generally contains an area of 4,486 parts per million lithium on average. So that's extremely high again. Just to compare apples versus apples, if I was working in Nevada over top of the TLC project or the Thacker Pass deposit, I would see results in the geochemistry that were a factor lower than what I see when I drill. So if I have 400 ppm on surface, sometimes I'm seeing 3,000 in drilling. So usually soils are not as enriched as the actual host. What you see here in this green shape is the actual open pit design at Thacker Pass. And I just want to remind people that that contains 40 years of their mine plan reserve. And the average grade is 3,160 ppm lithium, whereas we have a larger area currently at Titan 2, and it averages 4,486. Now, I'm going to remind one more time, this is an initial pass. We haven't drilled, but we do plan to drill this year. So I believe we have a very, very exciting second phase of exploration still to come on. Turning back to Titan 1, what we did here was try to project a little bit into our future. Normally, when you took a look at soils, we definitely need to drill to understand the host rock. But as I was saying before, when you have a very good anomaly on surface, it has been typically found that the rock pertaining to that anomaly is actually of a higher grade nature. So we're excited to be developing our drill program for this. But what we've done here is we've done something where we've projected now just those results to 15 meters depth. And I feel confident in doing that. We know this basin, I mentioned earlier, had 6 seismic lines done on this basin. And we know the basin to be at least 3 kilometers deep. And I'm only projecting 15 meters. So I think I'm being relatively conservative. And I feel that this is something that we can hopefully obviously build on. And hopefully that our drilling will prove this to be much deeper than 15 meters. But if it was just 15 meters, we're taking a look at our north block. There's a fault zone here with low-grade material, and we've designated just a north block and a south block to talk about these items. And we have about 21 square kilometers here of 4,700 ppm lithium, and we have 44 square kilometers of 4,300. So together they make 65 square kilometers. So that's 6,500 hectares with a weighted average grade of 4,376 parts per million lithium, almost 1% lithium oxide. And if we assume that 15 meters thickness, as I mentioned, we have a massive find of over 38 million tons LCE. Now, how that would sit with other producers and other people who have defined resources, like Lithium Americas, American Battery Tech Company, American Lithium, the Chinese company Ganfeng, who purchased the Bacanora deposit in Mexico. We sit very high in terms of, in fact, the highest in terms of LCE. So I'll take any questions.
Okay, so let's get into the Q&A session. And the first question is asked by Mr. Oscar Mercado. Are there any lithium peers in Tanzania, and how do they do?
Yeah, there are some lithium peers. Liontown is perhaps the biggest name people might know about. They're looking primarily at pegmatites. And in fact, when I looked at countries within Africa, I typically have looked at pegmatites in terms of potential. No one really has turned their eyes towards lithium-in-clay style deposits like we have. So there are no lithium-in-clay peers, but there are definitely people who are examining pegmatites.
Great. So one more question from the Chinese channel by Rita B. Car producers started to invest in lithium mines or companies. What does this mean to the battery metals industry?
Sorry, could I repeat the first part of that question?
Yes. Car producers started to invest in lithium mines or companies. What does this mean to the battery metals industry?
Oh, this is actually, I love this question. I also very excited about this. As I mentioned, GM is directly investing in the Thacker Pass deposit. So these companies are essentially jumping ahead of the curve and saying, if we want to make 5 million cars, we got to make damn sure we've got the lithium in order to put into all those batteries. So they're actually investing directly into the miners. And usually that's done in the way of an offtake agreement. Now, this has been done with copper and gold. People have often done offtake agreements. So it's in the case of us, we hope to be able to make offtake agreements with a number of companies since we feel we have such a large resource. But I think this is an exciting way for miners to get money rather than the conventional way of selling into the open market. But and it's also a great way for car companies to ensure that they have the supply.
Thank you, Craig, for the valuable insights on lithium. And as the demand for lithium continues to surge, investors should keep an eye on CDSG as there's a growing need for companies like CDSG to capitalize on this trend and provide exciting investment opportunities in the lithium market. So thank you, Craig, for being here with me today.
Well, thank you, Sharon. It's been a pleasure.